Welcome back to Made Up of Wires. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Let me close DuckStation out and leave that open right now. If you are not familiar with that project, you can go to SotN.z.dev. Normally I'd have that up. Today's a little different though. Today we're going to talk about a little news. I can find my keynote layer. Oh, and it's not loaded. Of course not. I did add the BO4 progress. Not much has been done since I imported it, but there is some things that I have locally that need to be checked in. But BO4 is on its way. I do need to check as well. I think I screwed something up on the GitHub README page that I need to fix. But I thought, yeah, that I could start the week with a little bit of news, and we could all learn about what's happening in the SotN Decomp and mod community. So, if you let me put that out of there. If you're not familiar with the project, most of everything that is done on the project gets uploaded to the SotN Decomp repo that's run by Zynamo. That's the central repo, master repo that we all pull from, Origin. I call it Origin, or Upstream. Sorry, Upstream is what I call it. My own repo I call Origin. So everybody's looking there, and so this is just kind of a summary of a handful of the more notable things that have happened in that repo since, and then there has been some other non-decomp mod things that have happened this week. I didn't spend time pulling those in, and maybe I'll talk about those a little bit tomorrow. So Project Oblivion did a huge update to our make files and helped quite a bit with just reorganizing them and having them make a lot more sense. Things are easier to find. So build infrastructure is extremely important. One thing I didn't really think before working on a decomp project, a significant amount of a decomp project is no different really than any other software engineering project. You have a bunch of, you're writing code, you have a bunch of people contributing, you need tooling and infrastructure and all the things that you normally need on a software project. And so it's always helpful when people do the work to make that software project better. So reproducible builds, things like that. So it's always awesome when build tools get updated because that makes everybody more productive. Speaking of making everybody more productive, one of the things I noticed in the last week or so is when I did parallel builds, often they would fail, but just running them again a couple times, they'd eventually succeed. And this was on clean branches that I knew that I hadn't broken anything. And so I never looked into what the issue was, but fortunately Zynamo did, and he found that there was a target that was Entropy Gravity, well, good to have you. He found a target that was misnamed and fixed that, and so we should get clean, consistent builds again. Another Project Oblivion change was adding the EID macro, and I reviewed this, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, and at first it looked like just a naming macro, and what was the point of this? And I was kind of like, if you ever do code reviews, you start looking and you're like, what am I even looking at? Why does this exist? And you get kind of curmudgeonly and grumpy about the thing. And then I realized, oh, this is a problem that I have all the time when decomping PSP. And that's PSP, for whatever reason, didn't use the preset entity IDs that were in a macro in, and maybe they weren't macros, and this might be a hint that they weren't. These may be, and this is all coming to me as in real time as I'm thinking about it now. These may be just constants that were defined not as a macro, but just as global variables. And when GCC optimizes that, it sees that it's a constant and replaces it with a constant value. But MetroWorks not being optimized doesn't do that, and so it refers to that global data. And so maybe this is something that we don't need to have as a difference between the PSP version and the PlayStation version, but it gets us a step towards identifying those things as the same, which is really nice. And then I spent too much time last week talking about making dupes faster, and that part of that PR got in. So I did two things with dupes. One of them didn't go in yet, and the other did. One was just doing a, like I said last week, approximation of Levenshtein distance, doing just size comparison in constant time. And that knocked down the dupes report significantly to seconds, where it was minutes before, which is really nice. The second part of that is the rolling hashes, and I got that working as well, and have a really cool script that can go through any binary and then show you where the offsets are for different compilation units that we have. So that's super fun. No picture up here for this, but Sozu is diligent about reviewing all of our stuff, even when maybe we push it a little too early. And is that it? Biz Murphy did a bunch of work to match more DRA and other stuff between PS1 and PSP as well. So that's just a little update. What I don't have up here yet and want to get up here is more info about the area map randomizer. And then Mozilla has made a stage editor tool. There is an existing stage editor project that I haven't looked at too closely, but now Mozilla has one as well. And so I'll look at that a little bit more. It's a Windows-only program, and I don't... I have a Windows computer that's accessible to me, but I don't use it very much, so we'll see if I care enough to to go download that. So what should we work on today? One of the things that I found when looking at the Doppelganger boss was there's a significant amount of shared code with the main game engine, and that's because all of the Alucard functions are in the main game engine, and when you're fighting Doppelganger, he is Alucard and basically has all the same functions. So I think we're going to look at that a little bit today and see if I can get those symbols mapped, and then maybe pull out the DRA code into something common that can be referenced both by Doppelganger 10. I'm assuming Doppelganger 40 is the same. And then we'll see if we can get that to match, and then that's a bunch of code that we don't have to write or re-decompile. Because we've done it already. And now I need to find I don't need to find it, I have a button for that. My windows are not as wide as they should be. There we go. An update on FiberGate. My fiber install was delayed because when they came to run the fiber from the box across the street, there was something blocked in the conduit, and the tech couldn't proceed, and it's been months. And they finally sent somebody out. They sent the city out to mark gas lines. They sent some other company out to mark electrical and other stuff. Sewer. Our road is all spray painted up now because I wanted fiber. And They sent new techs out today finally to do this. They thought they were going to have to rip up road and whatever to fix this conduit. And apparently he just had to take a compressor and blow out something that was blocking the line. And then he could run the fiber. So they called out government agencies, got permits, did all this stuff, 2 months, and they could have fixed it with a shop vac. I'm going to build. I should have done that while I was jabbering. So Friday is the day. We'll see if that actually happens. Get to go up in the attic one more time. Run the cables. How's your weekend? Entropy gravity well? Yeah, seriously, dig down deep. Very anticlimactic. The guy today was awesome. He earlier they broke some conduit. I was kind of upset about that. He ran a new flexible line up to the house and capped it off with heat shrink, which is awesome as well. So maybe in 20 years when they have to do something new, it won't be plugged again. So this is a entity background block. I did a clean. That shouldn't be related at all. Oh, maybe what would be causing that? NO4 was something that I was working on. I don't have any of that in this branch though. Let's try cleaning again. Just in case. Yeah, there's nothing in ASMUS. And make sure build is clean as well. Yeah, okay. I mean, that looks clean to me. Let me make sure my branch is up to date. And let's go again. And I'll see if I can find something more interesting to look at while this is going. So the dupes report, there's a couple things that, besides making it faster, that also were changed. If you've looked at the dupes report before, which you should have, the ST MAD, MAD is the debug room, what is going on? ST MAD was, the symbols weren't mapped properly, and that's because the symbol name for, or the symbol file for MAD was incorrect in the make file. So I fixed that as well. And so now we get symbols for everything, which is nice. What is going on? Maybe I've only changed things in this. So let's one more thing, and then we'll see. Oh, I didn't. Maybe there's dependencies that I've changed. I didn't see anything like that when I was reviewing. what has changed. We'll see if that works. And I'll go back here and talk about BO4. So way down in the smaller matchings, I noticed a bunch of these. So often I'll look at this and just find functions that are false. If they're false and there's a 1.0 next to them, likely they're the same as something else. Yeah, entity background block is failing consistently. So we're going to have to look at that and see what might have happened. I haven't checked Discord this morning to see if this is a known issue or not, but you should be able to fix it. Anyway, I noticed all these functions for BO4, since that's where I've been working, are all marked as false, and fortunately they're all together, and they should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to try to debug this issue so we can get unblocked. So the issue is that entity lock camera in N04 is not, the assembly file is not being created. So let's look at that. And there's actually two that are not being created. One is entity lock camera and the other is entity background block, which is an stdebug. And so we need to first see, are those files being created? They're not. So the next thing to look at is the splat config. And do we have stdebug? We don't have stdebug in here. So there was a PR related to this. But it looks like, oh, this is my fault. I did this. Bad me. So I should have noted that there, these are not checked in. I have a N04 branch, and I should have checked these in. This is work that I was doing to split these up. Let me just see what my last. All right, let's get back to BO4. Isn't that true? You can't imagine what has gone wrong, and then it's just yourself. You screwed yourself over. Story of my life. Oh, new 3D printer, Gravity Well. Oh, wow. Huge. FDM style, like PLA printer? That is huge. 350, 350, 350. All right, so the next thing I want to do is, I can't use the DRA functions directly because they well, what I might do is split out DRA first into like an a la carte animation file, and then go from there. I need the set player anim function. There is going to be a split here. I'm still trying to work through my. So I have a Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 Plus, Ender 3, whatever the mid-cycle Ender 3 thing was, not the V2, but the one before it. It has. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, 500. 500 per printhead. Does the Creality is just a single printhead? I think I mentioned before that I worked in a 3D printing lab in college, which was now 25 years ago. And what was neat about the industrial FDM printers at the time was that they had 2 print heads, and they would print supports in a different material. And that whatever patent that would be related to that has long since expired. I'm trying to remember who made that machine. If I can't remember anymore, at least not offhand. But so the 2 plastics were different, and so basically the supports, the 2 plastics didn't fuse, so you could just take the print off the supports. Which was really nice. Oh wow, 4 colors. That's awesome. All right, so what am I doing here? So set player step is the start of our boundary, which is a fine place to start. And then the end of the boundary is after update animation, which I think is up down here. So right here. So what we need to do is figure out where the split is. Fortunately, this function is unnamed, so we get the split name right there, which is helpful. And we want the US. This may unfortunately be used in a couple places, so we have to be a little careful. If it's split here, it may have to be split other places as well. But we should have symbols for all of it. But I do want to check in this file if there are any globals that are defined after this point, because we would have to account for those as well as any large switch statements that might generate RO data. Decelerate X and decelerate Y are used in a bunch of places, so it might be good to split these out too. Check move direction. I'm not familiar with that. This is in BO4 as well, but this is going to be in a separate place. I might map that while I'm here. I like that bosses become Bobo. Just amusing. Fun to say. And so to get these values, I'm looking at the dupes report. This is the automatic name that's given to the function by spim. So relatively easy to find. So I'm going to get the source. What would be interesting as well, and maybe I should do that next, is pull in Doppelganger 40. And I wonder if the only difference between that and this is some of the variables. Stats. Okay. Okay, so there was no there were no other variables, so we should be relatively safe. I'm going to add the set speed x as well. That also is a duplicate. These are duplicated in Richter as well. It's getting a prefix here. These should be updated. Anything with the RIC prefix should probably be updated to use the OVL export macro, which would make it capital RIC underscore. And that's how we can build a monolithic binary without symbol duplication. There's a few more of these. Get free entity. There's probably going to be quite a bit that gets duplicated here because it looks like everything that Alucard needs is here as well. As I'm doing this, I don't want to forget, I do need to make sure that I update the symbol name in when including the assembly, because those file names are all going to change. So there's a lot of code in here that will get to be shared. So I'm gonna stop there because I'm mostly interested in this file because it's so well contained. We do have one function here. Let me look for this 5430 because decelerate x is right there as well. So this isn't found. If we look for this EOB8 in DRA, there is one function that is in between decelerate x and decelerate y, and unfortunately that function is unique and can't just be shared between the two. So one thing, I'd like to do the split first because I think that will help. So I'm going to split here after end a la carte animation. So we're going over, and like I said before, we have the offset that we need here. And so the split should be pretty straightforward. So we're in 6D584 right now. And really we just need to, so we're at 6D F70. And we don't have any other data to import, which is nice. I'm going to create a new file, name that. I would like to split some more of that out later, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. BSS is being included here. I don't know if that is just a header. It is just header. So we'll have to see if we need that as well. I'm going to try it without first and see if that works. Unfortunately, I made a couple changes. We'll see if I screwed anything up along the way. Do you have any plans for what you're going to print with such a large volume? What is so 250 is like 10 inches. So about 14 inches. Well, that scared me at first, but it looks like that worked out fine. Oops. DRA still has the issue where one of the dependencies is circular. So it works on the second time. That is a dependency that's a little harder to fix than the ones the Dynamo did. And we didn't need, for this one, we didn't need any of the BSS declarations. So I'm going to add this and add the rest. Okay, so the next step is seeing if we can identify this data. So this data is going to be, sorry, wrong button. It's going to be here in this D59C function. We probably don't need this comment anymore because the dupes report is going to tell us that. I'll leave it there for now. So it's happening after player step. I guess I could go through and split this in Doppleganger, and maybe I'll do that first and have a nice small file to work through in here. Seeing the spools on top of that printer gives it scale. I don't know if I would be able to tell that that it was as big as it is without the spools. And so I'm guessing it does the retraction and filament change. For anybody who's wanting to look at 3D printers. I'm going to keep the symbols open because I need the offset for set player step. You'll need to get or build one of the auger filament melters, extruders. So set player step is where I'm going to split, and C is 13, so that's gonna be a 5. Is that 5? No, that'll be a 4. Yeah, I've seen those. Uh, 44970. And we'll call this .nm. And then split again here. Now I have to give this a name, and I'm not sure what a good name for this is yet. I'll just call it unknown 54430. 45430. Being bad at numbers is hard. Just come out west. Things are much drier here. So I'm going to make a third file, unknown 45430, without two unknowns. And I'm going to open this assembly file. I just want to make sure that I have that right before building. My assembly thinker isn't working, or hex thinker isn't working good today. Oh, that was the wrong function. Drat. 45430, and that's what we have over here, so that looks good. Okay, so I have to update all of the references and include to the right place. If C or the C preprocessor was a nicer language, you would be able to grab things like the bare file name without the extension statically, but you can't do that. And I think that's it. So let's extract and make and see what I screwed up this time. There we go. So there's stuff. Not the file that I just looked for. So it looks like I may have screwed up the split. Let's figure out where or why. So 44958. And so it looks like I did the wrong thing there. 44958. Okay, so let's try that again. So there's RO data that I missed. That will need to be split as well. So let's find the first of these references, which looks like here. And this jump table should still be in Doppelganger because I haven't cleaned. So I will open that. So it's in the Doppelganger RO data, and I want to find the first one of these, and these should be in the order of the file. So everything here and below, let me look for this label and see what function this label is part of. 374. So this label is part of a function that comes before all this. So this is where our split is here. So 344AC is part of unknown 45430. Okay, so we have some RO data missing. It looks like still. Oh, that's probably because these just need to be recompiled, because they'll compile fine. It's at link time that failure occurs. So that is working now. So that split is fine. The reason we were doing all the splits really is just so we could get this dop anim file all to itself. So I'm going to see here. Now I'm going to do the same thing basically on oh, did I open the? I kept the wrong one open. This one is the same, so I'm going to rename this to alu anim. That's how the British say aluminum. Any Europeans in the chat? That was a joke, if you didn't catch it. I've always wondered like how that affected. So tea has like antibacterial properties and all this other stuff. How did it affect the flora and the fauna of the bay? Or was it like so disgustingly polluted already from human waste and other things that they dumped in it that it didn't matter? Maybe it made it better. Though maybe tea, I guess tea is just dried leaves. So perhaps everybody just enjoyed themselves. I'm going to find this global. And I guess since I changed this, I will do an extract and just make sure this is fine. I probably should also make a commit here because this is, everything's working and I don't want to get into a spot where I screw something else up and can't revert to a working state. Okay, so let's add all that. And then I'm going to open and we're looking for this D59C. I named all these functions regardless of whether they were automatically generated or not. after the DRA functions, and so some of them are just going to have gross names that don't align with their addresses anymore, but we know that those are shared then. They don't have a US somewhere in the name. Except for this one down here. I'll have to see what this is. See if I'm missing something. Yeah, that one isn't duplicated, so this might cause us some problems. And maybe the split should be after update anim. That's possible. All right, so I need to open the assembly for this 59C. And the global that we're looking for is going to be read and assigned somewhere around a bunch of G entities references. And so G entities should be mapped, and but the particular field in G entities probably is just going to be something like this, which doesn't help much. So the other hint that exists is this 10. The fixed 0.5 is going to be a 16-bit value that may or may not be straightforward to see. This is that 0.5. So that gets us to right here. One thing that we could do, let me see if this exists. If I look at the Dracula matchings, now I have to go back and find that file. There we go. Great. So I'm going to look for this symbol here, and it's not there because this is a symbol that SPIM doesn't know about when it's generating these mappings. It's part of the ELF file that gets generated, but that isn't fed back in. Here's our 10 though, which is done in this line. So that gets us pretty close. The 73512, this is our entity. So we need to find the store back to that. And so it looks like it's this here. So let's find the 10 on this side. I'm pointing to it, but you can't see where I point. This 10 here. That's an A. That's a 10. Note it. And there should be a... So we have 2 branches. So I think it's this value here. And we're going to confirm that it's that value. It's a little odd though, because that is getting a D underscore name instead of a D underscore US. So yeah, it's not the 512 because that is being stored. So it's this one here. So it is this value. Yeah. So I'm going to grep for that. And that should tell us if it's the same data. If it's the same data. If it's the same data, then we can just use the one that is in DRA. So 10, 8, 8, 6, 6. 4, 4. Oh, jeepers. I can't deal with that many 4s. But I can see that the end is the same. So let's see if there's any other data. There is more data. 4, 4, 4s. So I'm going to make a note in here. This is an ephemeral file. So I don't want to save this necessarily and have Vim get mad at me. So we have a bunch of 4s ending with 16s. That looks good. 8, 12, ending with 32s. That's good as well. That's it. So we need to map this data to Doppelganger animation. So I'm going to grab these offsets. 1, 2, E4 is our first. Check this way down here. That's not how you do that. I'm going to just mark it as regular data, so it's going to be extracted still, just to get it compiling. I do need to make another split afterwards. At 1318. And is that it? I think so. So let's extract and try again. So I didn't look at that on the DRA side. I didn't change any of the RO data, and that is going to come back to haunt me. Because these will need to be split similarly. So I should deal with that now. This is just going to be Alucard animation. There wasn't any other data in that file, so I don't have to worry about that. But then RO data I do have to worry about. RO data isn't being mapped. And I think that's a mistake, and it just happens to be working, which isn't ideal. So let's see what I have done. What have I done? I have a new file in DRA that I've not added yet, which is this 45430. Nope, that's in DOP. Where's my new DRA file? I must have committed that already. So I need to find the RO data that's associated with 60F70. So I'm going to look for jump tables that have gotten extracted there. In matchings. No jump tables. Let's look in data. 60F70. Yeah, so these my concern is that these jump tables are getting generated, and yes. So there is oh, I don't know how the 6584 came back. This was the original name of this file. Ah, it's not there, but the object is. So I need to get rid of the object. The linker script is still looking for it. So we're building okay. Like I said, I think that there's an issue where some of the jump tables are not correct right now. I think there's some things in 60F70 that have jump tables that are not properly being mapped. In one sense, it doesn't really matter. Because if it's building, it's building. And ultimately, the goal is to not have to rely on these splat configurations anyway. But on the other hand, if somebody else is doing splits or other things like that, they probably want to know what's going on. So I do want to find what's happening there. So I'm going to look for oh, there is no jump table. So maybe I'm fretting for nothing. Oh, yes, I am fretting for nothing. The jump tables weren't part of any of this code that I'm looking at here. They were part of other things in the boss, Doppelganger boss overlay. I'm going to add our new files. I think everything's working fine. So I mapped the data, and that's working fine as well. So the next step I'm going to take is looking at this file. Let's see if I can get rid of BSS, what it complains about. Yeah, it didn't need that header, and the other place I split it also didn't need that header, so those are good. Since I don't need those references and everything else looks static, I'm gonna build all the C files again. Drat. I wanted to do wildcard, and I don't want to remove everything. So I'm going to rebuild everything in DRA, just making sure all the symbols work, and that's fine. And now I'm going to make these static, and then do the same thing. And I'm doing that just to make sure that these aren't referenced outside of this file. There is possibly some other issues because this is being compiled for PSP as well, and I'm going to have to repeat a lot of this on the PSP side and do the splits just the same way that I did them on the US side, and probably again for the HD version as well. So let's make that again, and I'm going to... So it failed, but that's because of the... I'm assuming because of the race condition for building those. I'm going to rebuild everything in DRA, and it's going to fail. But when I build again, it'll be fine, and it is. So that tells me that all of this is self-contained, and as long as I have the global definitions for everything, oops, I don't want to delete it. I'm going to just duplicate this here. And so I have one variable, one global that is undeclared. And so I'll need to find that. And so that's being defined in DRA. .h. It's an animation frame, and so I'm going to have to map that to the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't think it's a good idea to put that in the DRA-H file unless it's used somewhere else in DRA. I'll check that. So it's defined in this E294C file, but declared in the header file. There's no point, in my opinion, to make it a global declaration like that because nothing else is using it. So I'm going to move it into this file. But that does mean that I have to go find it and map it for B04. So this is in the DA70 function. So this is basically going to be the same process as before, which is looking at that function and trying to identify from here what that might B. So I could possibly pull yeah, that's probably the easiest thing to do. I'm going to also open the DRA assembly and just do it that way because that's relatively easy. There's this first variable at the top. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it into the doppelganger animation, or the BO4 symbols. This is going to be the address, and we're going to give it the name of the DRA symbol. And this probably is like Alucard's animation. So that's probably a better name for that symbol, and maybe before I submit this for PR, I will make that change. So there's going to be, yeah, so we have a data section in this doppelganger animation file now, but we've said that we should just use the extracted data section. So we'll change that to use the data from the C file and extract and make again. And if everything goes well, now we'll have this same file and it will be matching on both sides. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but here's hoping. So it didn't work, and that's because we have some references to functions that haven't been mapped yet. And so there are other things that are calling into this file that are calling functions that are defined in this file, and those mappings aren't lining up. It's possible that just recompiling this will relink those symbols, and that will be fine, and it's not. So we have to figure out why doppelgangers, what is being mapped at this 5354 address, and make sure that everything is referring to that as necessary. Oops. Or where that symbol is getting mangled. So it looks like it's being excluded somewhere. Oh, it should be in 45430. But it's not. And why is it not 45430? So something else is going on. For some reason, this is not compiling. Oh. So it looks like there's a couple issues. GPlayer draw isn't mapped, so I'm going to have to find that. And I'm not sure what's going on with the function US. Because that is building fine. So I'm going to have to look into that as well. But I'm out of time for today. So if you want to know more about what we're doing and decompiling, you can go to SotN.z.dev and see the progress we've made. We've been working on the Doppleganger 10 overlay, which is 58-ish% complete. Hopefully, a lot of the shared code will allow it to be much more complete, much more quickly. You'll find a link to GitHub and you'll find a link to Discord where you can learn more about the project. That's all I have for you today. Thanks everyone for stopping by chat. Oh, if you've stuck around this far and you happen to be a subscriber on Twitch, Prime subs are fine. If you want to send me a mailing address to twitch@madeupofwires.tv, I made some stickers and I'll send you some stickers. If you're on YouTube and you what do you do on YouTube? Subscribe on YouTube? I don't know what you do on YouTube. If you do the YouTube thing, then I'll do the same. But that's all I have for you. Adios.